Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of First Time Watch Fridays here on Horror Film Lovers. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I'm here to talk about Pet Cemetery Bloodlines, which was not a movie I was excited to see before because I had heard a lot of bad things about it. It was one of the, was it Paramount? Paramount Plus originals, and so it didn't even go to the theater, and usually that's not a good sign when they kind of dump it on streaming instead of putting it out into the theaters. But the fact that Paramount took a big chance on this is one of the things I want to preface this by saying I absolutely adore Lindsay Beer, who is Lindsay Anderson Beer, who is the writer, director, co-writer, director of this movie. And I don't know where it went wrong, but I absolutely adore her. I think she's so cute. I love her first movie, Sierra Burgess. That movie is just so funny. It was a Netflix film, and I think it's so different than this movie, obviously. But you could sort of tell still a little bit of her in both of those movies, and it's called Sierra Burgess is a Loser. And I remember watching that and just going, this girl's gonna go on and I mean, if you look at her IMDb, she's got so many different projects in development and stuff that I'm kind of jealous of. Like she's part of that Mask, MASK stuff and things like that. Just amazing stuff. And so I've been, sort of obsessed with her career a little bit. And I think for a long time I didn't want to check out this movie because I didn't hear good things. I'm not gonna lie. Nobody I heard said great things. And so I was like, I've got to go in this with an open mind. Maybe I will feel differently about it. And there's a few positives in this movie, but they don't outweigh the negatives. And this movie had a lot of negatives. But let me go into what I liked the most about this movie. And first of all, the direction. I really want to see her direct again. I think she did an incredible job with like the helping with the cinematography, which, goes to show she picked a good cinematographer, to work with her. She had great drone shots and fantastic things. And it that I really liked her shots, and I thought she did an incredible job directing that. Um, the other stuff I like the actors. The cast is incredible. So many great actors. I didn't even recognize Pam Grier. Have not seen her in years, so it was interesting to see her and the as the male woman and everything. And I want to say I thought the gore was awesome. Just really good gore, and stuff. Considering I'm not even a gore person, but if it's a Pet Cemetery movie, it should be gory, in my opinion. Um, Now, really, that's about it. I wanted to like this movie a lot more than I did. I did want to like it a lot more. I had this feeling that um that it was just going to be a more fun, entertaining movie. And at first, it starts out that way. Like, at first, you're sort of like, okay, this guy wants to get out of town with his girlfriend. They're going to not just get out of the town, but they're going to like go into the Peace Corps. Like, okay, cool. This is like around the Vietnam time, and the son of the guy has come home, but they don't know he's dead, and he buries him in the pet cemetery, and all that stuff. So it starts out really good, kind of cool, like, you find out the dog sort of like that dog right there, right there. That dog sort of has been killed and brought back to life through the pet cemetery too. So they are like, messed up and everything. Um, so you find out more about the town later and these two couple who honestly they were kind of bland. I like the girl a lot better, but like she was in it only about 10 minutes. It felt like she wasn't really in it that much. And like she kind of shows up in the beginning and then you don't see her again until like close to the third act. So yeah. Um, but I didn't really like him. And it's not like he's a bad actor. I just think he's just sort of was not right for the role necessarily. I just found him to sort of not, it's just kind of boring, like kind of a boring character and stuff. And then maybe that's the character. Maybe that's not even the actor, but that's the character. I don't know. But anyway, so to move on, I enjoyed and I'm enjoying the beginning of the movie. Like I think, okay, this is kind of cool. And then it sort of starts to try to explain itself and try to explain where the because it's called Bloodlines. So it's supposed to show off like what happened in the beginning, how they all got together and everything, and how like this whole the the woods and the burial ground. And I like the original Pet Cemetery's like explanation of it. You're not really supposed to do this, but you can go and put your dog or your cat, in the pet cemetery, and then he'll come back to life. I mean, that's all the explanation you really need. I don't even know why they feel like this needs more, because then it gets all confusing and stuff. The other thing I didn't like about it was I felt like I felt like it was edited weird. Like there was parts in it that wasn't in the I feel like there were things that were cut out. Like maybe this was I would guess this was a 2 hour long movie that they cut down to an hour and a half. And when they did that, it lost a half hour of story that we needed, little pieces. And they try to cut everything together to sort of make it make sense. But there are things like, so the dude, so the father of Judd. Judd is the main character. That's the guy right there. His father, played by Henry Thomas from E.T. and all the Mike Flanagan productions. Henry goes to find the founding families, the people from the founding families. That was his plan. But there's such a weird cut. So he's in his car. He says, I'm going to go find them, the founding families, right? And you can see somebody, and I guess it's the mom, but you don't really see her face. But she's like there. She says nothing. The son says something. The father says something. The mother says nothing. And it was almost like, why was she even there? I don't even know if that was Samantha Mathis because Samantha Mathis played the mom. I don't even know if that was her, like a double, that they use. And I don't even know why, because the scene before that with them two was just them two, just the son and the father. So they didn't need the mother to be there. I felt that was awkward. Um, my idea would have been just give her one line so it doesn't make it weird that she's there, you know. But anyway, so then later it cuts to him with David Duchovny's character, and they start talking, you know, and uh, and then the plan was, I guess, to go to the church, but then they go into this house where like everyone's there from the hospital is there too. So I don't think it was the hospital. Like it was so confusing. I didn't know where I was, what was happening, who everything was. Maybe I missed something when I was watching it. I don't know. Or maybe there's things that like explain things that I just missed out on. It was just very confusing. And then the worst part is, shooting at night is hard because you got to shoot where it would be dark, but you got to make sure it doesn't look like there's a lot of light. Problem is when you shoot in the dark, you can't see a lot of stuff. So if you can't see things happening in the dark, I don't know who's going after who, what's happening at that time, who's winning the fight or whatever. And things just got weird. Uh And yeah, and somebody once pointed out like the biggest problem with doing prequel movies, because this is a prequel to the remake. I never watched the remake. I once again I heard it wasn't good. And the writer director of the remake was the co-writer for this movie, so I feel like that was a big problem with the script. I feel like there were things that the co-writer put in that the that she fixed up and changed, because that's what I heard. I heard from her on an interview with her is that she actually went in and like she read the script and she wanted to basically give an outline for a whole new script. She wanted to do it herself and everything, which is her right as the new writer. But I think that wasn't necessarily what happened. I think there was some of the original script that's in the movie, and some of that doesn't make sense for her vision. So I don't always want to blame the writer director for everything. I feel like sometimes there's producers poking in saying we need this, we need that, and all this stuff. There's everybody. But when it comes to things like David Duchovny's character, I'm going to give you an example of that. David Duchovny's character, he brought the kid back to life. He resurrected his son and the dog. So he brought those two dangerous, you know, things on into this world. You know, he did that, and then he ended up uh he ended up saying, "Well, let me be the one, to be there in the fire. With I want to hold my boy. I held him, coming into this world, and I'm gonna hold him going out of this world." He was not a hero at that time. He could not. He he had plenty of opportunities to really start feeling bad and making us feel bad for him, but I didn't feel bad for him. And what my thought was, if there should have been a wife that did that. The wife was so sad that her son had died, and um she did that. Like that was how it was. Or if it was the husband who did it, it would have been another actor, and the wife would have been, because the thing was, it needed to be somebody else who did that, and then somebody else be heroic about everything, because you can't have it both ways, in my opinion. You can't be heroic after doing something. So that would be like a really terrible human being that started wars and everything, going, well, I just did this so everybody can love me now. No, that doesn't happen, like that. And so I wasn't a big fan of, if that made any sense at all. But I just wasn't a big fan of that. Unfortunately, I wasn't a big fan of the movie. I wanted to, and I heard it was a pretty successful downloads, like, and stuff. So, good for her and everything. But it did, like, critically, I don't think this was loved, and that's a sad thing, because I would have loved to see more stuff from Lindsay for the Pet Cemetery stuff. Hopefully she'll do another horror series at some point, because it does seem like she generally loves horror. She got really excited when she got this pick. And she's a hardworking gal. I think she's got like a Hello Kitty movie she's doing, so like good for her. Like continue to work. Um, I will continue to watch everything she does. But as far as this movie is concerned, I feel like as a writer, it just wasn't written well, or there were problems in the editing, in the cutting, like of it and stuff. And I don't know where it got like confusing. Like, why is it so confusing toward like the end, you know, and everything. And once again, I did not like their like explanations of stuff, because when you start explaining everything, it gets to be obnoxious. You start over explaining what happened, then it takes the mystery out of the whole. That's the one thing I liked about the first Pet Cemetery movie is that like the only explanation is if you put the if you put uh was it the cat into the pet cemetery, it'll come back to life. So you'll get a chance to see that cat once more. The problem is it doesn't come back, you know, normal. It comes back dead. It's it's really cool to think about it like what if you brought something back from the dead? It would not be happy. It was dead. It was happy. Like that sounds terrible. Like if you're dead, you're peaceful. You're literally at peace. Um, which, you know, but if you're if you're alive, or whatever, or you could bring something back to dead from the dead, it becomes, dangerous. So I just sometimes dead is better. And maybe I don't know, maybe the franchise for Pet Cemetery needs a break. They'll remake it at some point again. But give it like 5, 10 more years, something. Whatever you have left on the contract, because right now doing another one would piss people off. This was not what people wanted, I don't think. Uh, people people are huge fans of the book and they love the book and they want the book. And the problem is the studio doesn't want the book, I don't think. Um, and you know, eventually, hopefully they'll get it right. And the one thing I'm really kind of annoyed by is like I read that like Stephen King enjoyed this movie, or at least give it a thumbs up, and stuff on it. And I'm just like, why? Is it just because he didn't want to? Is he getting that old in age where he just doesn't care anymore? Just because I don't think he really would enjoy this. I think this is not what he, obviously he used to fight for purity, for the, making sure The Shining was exactly the way he wanted it, or whatever. Maybe he just didn't care after a while, and that kind of saddens me that he's not there telling people you can't do this. This isn't Pet Cemetery. This doesn't feel right. This feels weird, or whatever. Why did this happen? Like, but there's just nobody there. Like I feel like doing that, they're just like, okay, this works. People understand. This is a movie, you know, and it should have been better, and especially um for her like first movie and everything, it should have been better. Like this should have been a better directorial debut. But that's my opinion, you know. Take it with a grain of salt. But until then, everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed this and let me know what you guys think. I'm really excited to go down this, do more first time watch Fridays. I'll try to do one, at least one a month, if not two. If I can do two, that'd be great. But I've been so busy with a million other ones. We're doing so many Indie Film Cafe and Blu-ray Hunter stuff that this always gets sort of treated lastly. But I do love watching these movies, and I hope that you guys enjoy these reviews. So until then, everybody, hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you on the next one. Till then, bye.